Hey everybody. So the Oscar nominations have come out, or are coming out, whenever this video is uploaded. And, this is the point where the movie critics are supposed to come out with the videos on their predictions and whatnot. Just wring every last drop of relevance out of the Academy Awards as if it were like an old dish rag. And yeah, I'm not going to do that. But before I begin the video, I will, as always, plug my website. It is deepfocuslens.com. I am an artist and I do commission portraits and I sell prints of my work. If that is something that you're interested in, you can always go to the website below. And if you have a question about a commission or a print, you can always email me. My email is in the description box below as well. So the Oscars. Whenever I talk about them, it's hard for me to say a lot of positive things about it, but I do believe it's important to talk about some positives because they do exist. And, for me, I do think it is wonderful to see somebody achieve a dream, just on a very basic level. It's really nice to see somebody, especially if there's somebody like a small documentary filmmaker or like a sound mixer, a costume designer, get to stand up in front of an industry and get to say thank you and talk about their passion. It's their soapbox, that they finally get to have. And, it can open up some doors for you. Absolutely. Having Academy Award winner next to your name, can open up all kinds of doors in the industry. And that's wonderfully gratifying in any sort of job. I'm sure there are many of you out there that, would get recognition from your job, and it means a lot. And the only difference is that it's not broadcast to the world the way that the Academy Awards is. So naturally, it's very exaggerated. It's made for television, but it's very boring still, and it's always been boring. That's not really a change, and yet we're pretending like we still are invested in it, and that just doesn't make much sense to me. I think it was in maybe the mid-2000s where the decline started becoming a real problem, and especially I think the Academy Awards was trying to find their identity, their place in the 21st century. Not just them, but all of movies are trying to find their place in the 21st century, where our idea of entertainment and how we, what we value in our entertainment is changing. And so naturally what you do at that point is you start changing your format. You start experimenting with different things that you can do, hoping to get your audience back. But it feels like each attempt goes further and further away from the direction that they should be going. And it feels much more like an attempt to pander to audiences without recognizing the condescension. And so their big thing now is to talk about politics, to lecture you, the American public, on how to live your life from people who have no idea what it means to struggle, to know what it means to live in the real world, especially during a time like this. And for those of you who are saying that, yeah, it's been this way for a long time, it's like, yes, of course it has. But if you haven't noticed the extreme escalation in maybe the last 5 or 6 years, it feels like you haven't been paying attention. Hollywood is an outlet mall in a suburb compared to what it used to be. And again, you'd think the logic would be like, let's try and make the show fun and engaging. Let's try to humanize ourselves a little bit, because that tends to be the big problem. But no, that might take work. That might take some exposure and some dignity. And dignity, what is that? But no, their solution is to lecture the public on political and moral stances that they have adopted, more really to gain recognition in a public setting, which I find to be really, really gross. It is not out of the goodness of their heart. It is to appear a certain way to other people. And yeah, that is virtue signaling at its most cringy. And nowadays it's very common that we see big movie stars with like political activist in their IG bios. And there's almost no difference between Hollywood and the White House. I've said that a million times on this channel. It's like wanting to be recognized as a good Samaritan, but only so long as you can cover up the bloody tracks that lead to the body bags in the closet. To me, if I was in their shoes, I have some of my own ideas of what they could have done that might have gotten the public just slightly more on their side. I think it's almost a lost cause at this point. I think it's going to just slowly fall into obscurity. And that's not necessarily, I think that's just time. And I think that's just the relevance of movies is waning naturally. So it's going to happen. But if you want to salvage, some trust and dignity between Hollywood and the audiences, what I think they should have done, number one, is apologize for Harvey Weinstein. And I think there's a couple ways that you can do that. Number one is obvious. Just state that you're sorry. Be honest and be like, yeah, we all kind of knew about this, about Harvey Weinstein. We knew the creep that he was. We just didn't talk about it because Harvey Weinstein had so much power. He could destroy any of us, destroy our reputations and all of that. You know, it would be really nice, I think, if more people came forward and were honest just about that, rather than being like, yeah, that happened. Let's just shove it back here. And diversity. Let's focus on diversity in film. And again, it would be nice if that diversity plea was genuine, if it came from a real place. But no, again, it's a way to create a diversion in a lot of ways. It is Harvey Weinstein that people wanted to talk about. And, Weinstein, as much as Hollywood resists talking about this, Weinstein changed everything about the way the Academy Awards work and like Academy voting and all of that. It changed big time in the mid to late 90s. It is all because of the Weinsteins. They changed just kind of the political campaigning nature of things. It's all about like whispering in the right ears, rubbing shoulders with the right sorts of people in order to own an entire industry like Hollywood. But it's due to that kind of aggressive campaigning that it's like you get all the right people on your side, get all the right media people on your side, get the right stories written about you from like Rolling Stone and the New York Times and CNN. It goes on and on and on. And yes, by doing that, you are a member of the elites and you are kind of at the top of the food chain to a degree, but it's a very out of touch sort of thing because the majority of people don't particularly care and probably don't really like you, which is a problem when you're in the business of entertainment, where it's important for people to like you or at least be interested in you. I think what the Academy should have done is just recognize, number one, that Harvey was a monster, and then start to make amends and start to change kind of the formula that he's created. I know it's really hard, it's really solidified, but ultimately it just needs to become more accessible to audiences. The more political you make it like that, the more you create that disconnect. And I think that is part of the problem. And again, I think they're way too deep in a hole in order to be able to dig themselves out of it at this point. But to salvage some dignity, I think this would be just a step in the right direction. I'm sorry. It bugs me when you have movie stars telling you to like fight against the oppressive system when they literally cleared out an entire homeless shelter for their award ceremony, their sparkly gown and black tie affair. When the public is turning their back on you that much, I think you at least owe it to yourself to look in the mirror and kind of figure out what is going on here, rather than just blaming everybody else. I think this epidemic of victimization is just something that I don't really value in this modern world. I want anybody who has a voice and talent to be able to use that voice and be able to tell their stories, and I hope for more platforms for people to be able to do that. I just don't think they're going about it in the right way by shoving it down your throat. I'm not a child, and yet the industry seems more and more interested in just taking down like a political subgroup or a party or whatever, rather than creating nuanced storytelling, stories that come from a real place. You want to tell a political story, that's fine, go for it. Like there's plenty of great political movies, great movies that have messages in them, absolutely. But again, I'm interested in it if it's quality. Do it if it's really from the heart. Once it becomes a gimmick to this degree, I think it's gone too far. I don't like seeing mainstream movies these days that feel like bad PSAs. And they are just so desperate to be accepted by the people, so desperate not to ruffle feathers. Completely counterintuitive to what it means to create art. By worrying what people think about you that much, it's like you're going to end up eating your own tail. You're going to end up limiting your own creativity. And that's what they don't understand. It's like how much they are limiting the creativity by just shoving agendas down our throats. Like I remember when art used to be interesting because it was subversive. I remember a time when people could make movies and they could be loved, they could be controversial, they could even be hated, and yet you could still hold your head high because you believed in the work. The result is unbelievable. It is legitimately an echo chamber in every sense of the word. If you look at, even in 2020, the Oscars that existed before the pandemic, before quarantine and all of that, ratings were at an all-time low. It was like, 20 million, something like that, 20 million viewers. And then 2021 saw nearly a 60% decrease, something like 10.3, 10.4 million viewers. That is astounding. It's almost surreal, but I don't see any signs of these delusions being removed in any way. I just see it going further in that direction. So we will see how that goes. But just based on what I saw last year, I don't watch the show, but there are always memes and, things that are trending from the next day. And that's kind of how I catch up on it. And what was the one thing I saw last year was Glenn Close, and she was twerking, I believe, to Da Butt. That's the Oscars. But that is my video. Thank you guys so much for watching. All of my patrons you can see over here. Thank you guys so much for your support. If you are interested in supporting, the link for that is below, as well as the rest of my social media information. You can watch more videos here, and you can subscribe if you'd like. Catch you next time.